This is Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. It's powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. To get an extended 30-day trial, visit shopify.com/masters. Hey entrepreneurs, my name is Felix and I'm the host of the Shopify Masters podcast. Each week we put out podcast interviews with successful e-commerce entrepreneurs or experts to give you inspiration, motivation, and actionable tips to increase your traffic and sales so your store can generate the sales you need to live the life you want. On the last episode, Chris Cage from greenbelly.co explains how he started a digital nomad business traveling from Medellin to Austin to Chiang Mai, Thailand. In this episode, you'll learn from a Shopify Build-a-Business winner that believes that talking to customers one-on-one helped them build a $1.7 million business. In this episode, you'll learn how to get feedback from products that you give away for free, how to look out for predatory vendors when you're just starting up, and what makes a high-converting Kickstarter video. Today, I'm joined by John and Claire Easley from carbon6rings.com. That's CARBON, the number 6, RINGS.com. Carbon 6 sells forged carbon fiber jewelry handcrafted in America and started in 2015 and based out of Brooklyn, New York. Welcome, John and Claire.
Hey, how are you doing? Hey, Felix.
Good. Hey, cool. So excited to have you guys on. So, just to kind of put it out there, you guys were one of the winners of the Shopify Build-a-Business competition, one of the most recent one, and we'll definitely dive into that in a little bit. But let's start off by talking about your story. Tell us a little bit about the brand and what are some of the products that you sell?
All right. Oh, so we started because I lost my wedding ring a couple of years ago, and I didn't know of a ring on the market that would really work with the type of things that I did. And so I was looking into materials that I thought would function. I was studying as a mechanical engineer, and we started working with carbon fiber, and I liked the idea of something that was light and strong and had two elements, the carbon fiber and the resin that were strong in different ways, but when they came together, they would form something that was stronger than either of them could have been separately. And so we started to develop a process called forged carbon fiber that was used by Lamborghini about 2000. It's still used by Lamborghini, started in 2010. And, I worked on it, developed it, and started making rings from it. And then we made a Kickstarter. Kickstarter was successfully funded in July. And after that, we've been selling through Shopify ever since.
Very cool. So what's your background? Like, how did you get into creating these rings? So you lost your wedding ring and then you just picked up this skill, or did you already have a background in creating things like this?
Well, it was kind of neat how it came together because most of the things that it took to make the ring had come from different events that had happened in my life. I learned how to turn things on a wood lathe, and so that helped me to understand what it would take to make a ring. And I learned in a machine shop how to make a circle concentric inside of another circle, which is something you have to do for a ring, how to make a radius in a machine shop, and I learned how to make things flat as I worked in the machine shop. And then in school, I learned how to program machines to help to shape things, to design something, take something that's in your mind and put it on a computer screen, then communicate that to a machine to be able to cut a shape and make tooling. And also I had experience working with carbon fiber because of school and making molds and shapes out of it. And so it's almost as if, the events that happened in my life sort of made it organic or natural to move into this world of making jewelry.
Very cool. So you already had some experience here. What made you think that, were you just creating this for yourself, or did this experience of wanting a new ring, did that kick off some kind of, not intuition, but some motivation to start a business? Or did you first create the rings for yourself and then find out that there was a business potential behind it?
I'd always wanted to do a business. My father he is a business owner, and my grandfather was a business owner, and my grandfather before that, when he came into the port of New Orleans from Sicily, he opened his own business. And so I always wanted to start my own business. And as I would look at things in the world, I would think about what I could make and if I liked that thing and if it would make a good business. And so when I lost my wedding ring, I recognized that there was a need for something that would work for someone that worked with their hands and wanted something that had meaning and could symbolize the relationships that they were in. And so I started to think about the ring, and can I make a ring that would help people remember the promises they made, and that would be attractive and not get in the way when they were working, or possibly make sure that it wasn't dangerous to hurt them. Like so a gold ring, if you have a gold ring, you can't really be a welder because it could arc and it would hurt you. And most of the metal rings, if they get smashed, they get stuck in your hand and you have to cut them off, which doesn't happen with carbon fiber. So I knew that I wanted to do a business, and I saw that there was something in carbon fiber that could symbolize our relationship and would work for the kinds of activities that I did and the work that I did. And so I started to focus my desire to start a business on making the carbon fiber ring work. And that's what led me to the forged carbon process, because it made something that was strong and beautiful, and I thought meaningful. And so here we are now.
Mm-hmm. So when you created these, did you sell any of them before launching that Kickstarter campaign?
I did not sell any of them. I gave them away to people. I made hundreds of them. And so I had a lot of friends and people even that I didn't know that I would just give rings to. And they would wear them around and tell me what they thought about it and how they worked and how I could change it. And that gave me an idea for if there was some kind of desire for people, if they were comfortable, if they would break, or if they didn't work in certain situations. And then it also gave me practice making the rings, which was necessary because it took a lot of time to figure out how to do it.
So you said that you gave these rings away initially. Were you looking to get feedback, or like how did you know, or what was the purpose behind giving all of these, essentially these products that you created away?
Oh, I gave them away because yes, I wanted feedback. I wanted people to wear the rings and to see how they worked in the activities in their lives, and also to get feedback on what they thought about how they looked, what they felt like when they wore them, things I could do to change the design to make it more comfortable. So I recognized that there was a need for me to get information on how people felt about the ring, how the ring performed in the world. And so I thought it was worth the cost of the materials and the cost of my time, which was significant, to be able to get that information.
This is definitely a step that a lot of entrepreneurs take early on when they are developing their own products, just to give it away, put it into the hands of their target customers, and then get the feedback. And one of the situations for you is that this ring is not just, a ring for looks, but it's also, like you're alluding to, it's very functional. It can be used in different environments, but you're not always going to be there, right? Or maybe you'll never be in those environments with them at the time that they are kind of getting the true value out of your product. So how do you make sure that you get the feedback that you need out of them? You give them the product and they kind of have to go off and live their lives before they recognize, what potential problems they might have with it, or potential benefits that they really like about it that you can use in your marketing or in your branding. But again, that all comes without you being around. So how did you make sure you got the feedback that you needed out of them?
Most of the people that we gave the rings to were friends or relatives of friends in the town that we lived in. And so it was a small town, so we would give the rings away, and then almost certainly we'd end up running into that person again later on. And so one of the first things I would look for was, are they wearing the ring today? So if I gave them the ring 2 weeks ago or a couple days ago or a month ago, when I run into them at the park walking the dog, are they wearing the ring? And so usually they were. If they weren't, ask why. And then I gave the ring away to people that did different activities than I did. So some people were cyclists, or they went hiking or did outdoors things. Some of them worked in wood shops and metal shops. Some of the guys did. So I would ask them how they worked in those areas around the different environments. Because there's lots of things in this world that affect everything differently. So gold is pretty great because it's something that doesn't corrupt. And so if you get salt on it, it doesn't matter, it doesn't rust. If you were to work with acid or solvents, nothing happens. But if you have a steel ring, a stainless steel ring, if you got acid around it or even salt, eventually it would rust or corrode. If you have a brass or copper thing, then it will just turn your hand green no matter what. And so I wanted to know how carbon fiber acted in these environments, which, I was able to find out that it was functional. in most of them. If you work with solvents, though, like with tetrachlorofluoride or acetone, then that would affect the finish of the rings. And so to get that information, to give the rings away and give them to people that did things different than what I did, helped me understand that. So if you worked in a let's say a nail salon, then you wouldn't want to wear the forged carbon fiber ring while you're working with acetone because it would damage the resin inside the ring.
So was there an amount of time that you needed to wait before you got their feedback? Because you can't just give them the ring and then check in with them the next day, right? How long did you have to wait? Or typically, how long did you have to wait before following up with them?
It was typically about 2 weeks. So I would, it was like a 2 week or a couple month period when I would just follow up or see them out somewhere to get that information.
And do you remember any key feedback or information that you got out of these, early testers that made you actually go back and change any features of the product?
Oh yeah, sure. So some of the, one of the things that happened was I was using a bonding agent to bond the glow insert to the forged carbon fiber shell, because our rings have two parts, the part on the inside that glows and the part on the outside is forged carbon on some of the models. And some of the bonding agent we were using wasn't working, wasn't bonding to the resin insert. And so they were falling out. So that helped me to understand that we needed to change to a different resin. And so we were able to do that. And then another part, we were adding color to the rings. We were putting a dye on the insert to make it to where it was the color that it glowed whenever it wasn't glowing. So in the daylight, you could still see a ring that had color on the inside. But we found that as people wore those rings, some of the dye, even though it was supposedly permanent, was leaking off onto their hands. And so we had to stop doing that. And the manufacturing process is full of things like that. There's so many complications that can happen, especially when you're working with new materials that you can't exactly look up online or inside a book how they'll react to each other. So we had to find a bonding agent that bonded to carbon fiber and also to silver. And so we needed someone to help test those things. And the only way to get that data is by giving a lot of rings away.
How long did this, period of testing go on? Like, how long did you run these giveaways? How long did you give away these products for free, get their feedback, and go through these iterations? Like, how many times or how long did it take before you were comfortable to move on to the next stage, which I guess is to the Kickstarter stage?
Yes. So I started to develop rings that I could give away February of 2015. And so we started giving those away. And then by June, we felt comfortable enough with the model to go ahead and run the Kickstarter and develop that campaign. There were still things that came up after that we didn't realize whenever we scaled. Like after the Kickstarter, we had more orders than we supposed, and some of the processes that I had developed worked when I was making the rings individually, but when I had to teach other people and make more rings per day than I could make by myself, some of the processes didn't scale well, and so I had to develop more things, and more problems came up. And so we're always developing, finding out new ways to make things better and stronger, and even new products. So it's still happening now, us trying to make things better. But we were comfortable and we had a good product, in June of last year, and then we ran the Kickstarter in July.
Yeah, I think this is a stage that a lot of entrepreneurs get kind of stuck in. And it seemed like you kind of went through it pretty quickly. You know, it all happened within, it sounded like, 6 months or less for you to go from this stage where you're giving out free products to a stage where you felt like it was commercial ready and ready for the market to see it. How did you know that it was, like you're saying though, you're always iterating, and I think that's the case for any product, always constantly trying to improve it. But how did you know that you're ready to, ship this product and put it out into the market? Like, what about that particular iteration made you say, you know what, this is good enough to go to market?
I think what made that iteration work was that like some of the earlier iterations, we were having trouble with there being voids in the rings or seam lines or a way for it to or not consistent shapes. And so the biggest thing was that we were able to consistently make rings that looked the same and that had quality that looked and felt right to us.
hmm And did you do all of this on the side, or was this like your full-time focus at the time when you were creating these rings and testing them out?
Well, I actually, one of the things that I did to make this happen, once I decided I wanted to make rings, and I had done this with other products that I wanted to try to sell eventually, was I would make sure that my products and classes in school lined up with the things that I was making. And so I was taking a class on how to design products and understand what people would want in the market and how to get it out to them. And so I made my project a carbon fiber project. And I was working in a class that taught us how to work on machines and shape things and make molds. And so the mold that I made in that class was a mold for carbon fiber rings. And so I tried to make it to where the things I was studying in school I were applicable to this goal or dream I had to sell rings to people.
Now that's amazing. I think that's a great attribute in an entrepreneur, is being able to recognize that there are opportunities where you can get double the benefits, right? You're going to school, going to these classes, might as well find a way to take classes, put yourself in situations that can then benefit your product creation or your marketing or helping you learn how to run a business. So I think that's a great kind of piece of advice for anyone out there that is trying to balance two things. Even if it's a job, you can try to find ways to position yourselves, put yourself in a particular role or job that helps you learn the skills or build the techniques or learn the techniques to apply to your business. So you were creating these products, going through these iterations prior to going to Kickstarter. Do you remember how much investment you had to put into this early on?
Yeah, it was about around $8,500 in just the debt. In time, I was doing probably about 40 hours a week working on it. And so it was around $8,500 before Kickstarter ran. And eventually I did get academically suspended from school in exchange for spending too much time on the product and not enough on doing the homework. So that was a sacrifice too. But it's a choice I made. And it was risky for us to get into credit card debt without any kind of promise of reward. And it was also a cost that I spent most of my time working to make these rings that we didn't know what was going to happen with them. But it ended up working out for us. And so sometimes I think you have to be all in and take a leap of faith, maybe when it doesn't even seem wise.
Yeah, it definitely does sound risky. Like you're saying, you went into debt, credit card debt, you're going to school and ended up getting suspended. And pretty much this was, like you're saying, you're all in. If it didn't work out, you'd owe a lot of money, and then you'd also wouldn't have, the certification or degree that you were going to school for. Did you ever at any point consider just kind of scrapping this idea and maybe going back and just focusing on the classes, on the school, and then going through that first, and then revisiting this at that time, this kind of not side project, but this kind of business that you're trying to start on the side?
Not in the beginning. So when I got onto the project, when I decided to start doing it and start making the thing, it just became everything to me. I was in the workshop at night. I was researching the market in the day, looking through what other people had made like me and trying to learn how putting things on social media, finding out what people thought about the rings. Everything I did was the rings. It never occurred to me to not do it. And I just got the credit card out and I bought things. I bought the materials and I bought the tools, and I didn't even think about not doing it. It was just, I just knew it. I felt like it would work, and it made sense to me just to go all in on it. After the Kickstarter, things have gotten hard at times. We invested a lot of money, and so it was difficult to scale everything at once. And so after the Kickstarter, as we've been running our own business, there have been times that I thought, like, did I make the right decision by going into this right now? Because you're right. Now that I have been academically suspended, I only had about 15 credits left. I had like 1 or 2 semesters left to finish up my engineering degree, which is a valuable degree. I thought, did I make the right decision by going all in and making these rings? And I feel like I did. And I'm glad that I did it. And I think it's a blessing that this has happened. But it has been a fight to keep things alive at times. And I've been asked to do things and asked to make decisions that I didn't suppose I would have to do when I started this business.
Yeah, so I think it makes sense to address the baby in the room. So, did you have the baby during this whole period? Like, what was that? How did you balance raising? I guess is it a newborn?
Yeah, no, we have a newborn baby. She was actually, we found out. So I had worked and on making the ring, and then we built the Kickstarter, and we found out that we were pregnant with Ruby on the same week that we started the Kickstarter. And so that happened. And then the Kickstarter ended, and it ended up being bigger than we thought it was. And I needed help to make sure that we could meet our commitments to the best of our abilities. So, and Claire was writing a book at the time, and so she had to take time away from writing the book, and she wasn't able to finish until December because of that. And she still has work to do that she's put aside. Still needs to find a publisher, but she helps me. And the baby, there's the doctor's appointments and the health insurance and the money that you need to have a baby and the time it takes to.
Yeah, for the record, it was really hard.
Yeah, no, it's very hard. We had to make a lot of 14-hour days, 6 days a week, most of the time, which is fine for me. I like working, but we still, you got to take care of the family and the baby too. And so there's been a lot of sacrifices made along the way to make this business sustainable.
Yeah. So, any tips then for anyone? I think again, a lot of entrepreneurs are probably in the same life stage where they are thinking about starting a family and are thinking about how can they earn more income for their family, even, or thinking about starting a business for that reason. What worked, I guess, for you to try to balance everything? Just hearing you talk about it is already exhausting me. I can't imagine what it's like to actually go through it. So any tips on trying to balance, raising a family and starting a business at the same time?
Well, Claire and I are lucky that, we've made choices that we work together. And so we're in the office together and the baby's here with us. And one of the things that we had to decide on early was that the value of our time. And so when a business gets to a certain point, you might want to do a lot of things still on your own and make sure they're done a certain way. But you have to give things away to people. You have to let other people do work so you can focus on other things. And we decided that Claire, we had decided to get a babysitter that is with us during the daytime but helps take care of the baby while Claire's working, because the value that Claire adds to the business is greater than the cost of the babysitter. And there are lots of decisions like that along the way to where you could do as a business owner, you might want to do lots of different things. But in order to grow, you have to evaluate what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you can give away to other people to do, and make the decision and have the faith to give that thing away to a person when, it'll add more value to the business than if you had to do that, spend your time doing it yourself.
Yeah, I think that's an important point to make, where a lot of new businesses will try to save too much money or try to hold on to too many things, and it could actually, hurt you in the long run. Imagine if you decided not to invest or pay for a babysitter and then decided to watch the baby and try to run everything at the same time, you might not be in this position at all. You might have burnt out. You might not have gotten this far. I think that's an important thing to note, that cash is definitely important, the lifeblood of a business, but you should also not be too, stingy with your money and actually be using it for yourself up in your case, or just to invest in places that will give you the value back for your money, not just thinking about hoarding it and trying to save as much as possible. So I think that's an important point to make. So let's talk about the Kickstarter then. It was, like you're saying, wildly successful, much more successful than you guys had anticipated, because you only had a goal of $11,500. Ended up raising over $400,000 from 3,431 backers. So tell us about that. Maybe we'll start with the goal. What did you plan to do with that initial $11,500?
The initial plan for me was to have enough money to buy the machines I needed to make the rings. And over time, I would continue to make money and buy more machines that would help me. And my dream at the start of this, the reason I wanted to start a business, as an engineer, typically you go out into the world and work. And if you work for Boeing, an engineer doesn't actually build a plane. They work on a couple bolts. They build a latch that opens the storage unit, or they do analysis on a wire that is supposed to, adjust a wing flap. And so you just work on one little thing, and I wanted to create whole things. And so my plan was to do this Kickstarter in order to get me started, to buy a machine that I needed to be able to make molds and work in carbon fiber. So eventually I could have my own business where I could make the whole product that I wanted to, and not just have to work on one little thing or one little piece of a product. That's why we decided on that goal, the $11,500, I think it was, to buy a machine that would help me make the rings, and also buy the materials to make them.
Mm-hmm. Did you do any preparation before the Kickstarter launch? Like before the launch day, did you just kind of set it live, or did you prepare anything in terms of PR or marketing leading up to the launch of the Kickstarter campaign?
Yes. No, we did a lot of, so the primary preparation was to make sure that we had a product that we could produce consistently, and also that it was something that people would want. And one of the other things that we did was that I watched a lot, pretty much every design Kickstarter video and that had happened, and I would pay attention to how they did and how they presented the product, and I looked at their websites and their products, and I got a feel for what worked and what communicated with people, and kind of learned that language that was the online language that people speak. And so we made sure that we had things to help people understand that we were legitimate and we weren't crazy, and that we'd be able to, it would be worth them investing and taking a risk in us. And so part of that was making sure we had the product, and then we took photos of it that helped to represent what it looked like and the value of it. And we did research and wrote copy to help people understand the meaning behind it and the value of something that was, how difficult it was to develop. And we put things up on social media, and we started to advertise on Facebook. One thing that most people do for a Kickstarter is gather email list, which we did not do very much of, because I just didn't know about that part of it. I just knew about making something that was beautiful and then how to present it. But I didn't know that you needed so many contacts. So that's an important part that I guess we didn't do that we should have, but still worked out. Another thing that happened is there are companies that will help you if you wanted to crowdsource. You have to be careful with those. There are some that are predatory. It's a very, to do crowdfunding, you have to open yourself up to the public and put yourself out there and share something with the world that, is very personal, that you've sacrificed a lot for. Like I had sacrificed time and money and given up school. And so when I first did that project, we got an email from a company that said they could help us to do well. And I looked at their website, and it looks like some of the products they had done well. It's surprising, because you can look at Kickstarter and there are products that are very good that don't do well, and there are products that you think, like someone makes a fanny pack, and for some reason a fanny pack makes $60,000. Mm-hmm. And so why did that happen? And this company had done that. They had taken products that sometimes they weren't that great, but they made a lot of money. And so I talked to them, and as I was talking to them, I discovered that their primary goal was to diminish the value of what I had done and make me afraid that I wouldn't be able to do it without them. Mm. And so we said no to that, which was scary for us, because we'd seen that some of the things they'd done in the past were successful, and I was nervous about putting this video with my face on it, my voice, and this thing that I put so much into. And what if it failed? What if they were right, that I didn't have the email list that I needed, that it wouldn't work because I didn't have the email list, that it would flop. And so we put it up there, and of course it didn't flop. We got funded within like 2 or 3 days, and then we surpassed it. And of course this company called again. And so I thought, well, regardless of their tactics of trying to recruit me, maybe there's still value in them helping me find more clients. And so they talked with me, and the owner called, and so I looked over the contract that they had, and the contract was extremely predatory. I'd never seen anything in my life. No New York City landlord-tenant contract is more predatory than this contract that they give. And so I just said no. It was so dirty that, and And that was even still scary, but we did fine without them. So in this situation, when you go into crowdfunding, you're starting a business, you are vulnerable, and there are people that recognize that. And so as you go out into the world to find people to help you as marketers or suppliers, maybe be careful and cautious about what their motives are, and if it's someone that you can trust, and if it's someone that you want to work with. Because there will be people, especially in crowdfunding, whether it's Indiegogo or Kickstarter, that will try to take advantage of you. So just be wary of it, and maybe have someone close to you, some friends and family, mentors that will help you see things as they really are, and that don't have a motive to try to milk you for money.
Yeah, this happens a lot for any new business, whether it be on Kickstarter or any business that you start, is that once you come into the space, like you're saying, and make yourself available publicly, all of a sudden these, quote unquote, opportunities all of a sudden start popping up, where vendors, agencies start reaching out to you to try to help you out. Of course, there's always legitimate ones, but like you're saying, your experience with these Kickstarter vendors were predatory. So tell us a little bit more about this. Like, what are some things that came up, or what are some things that other Kickstarter campaign creators should look out for in the terms or the deal to make sure that they aren't screwed when they do work with any agencies or vendors to launch a crowdfunding campaign? Oh,
yeah. I think the first thing is to consider the tactic that they use to recruit you. Like, what kind of letter did they write to you? Was it one, like for us, they wrote an email that said one thing, and then we got online, they said something else. There was like a bait and switch that happened. So you want to look for consistency in the communication between you and that vendor. And another thing is references. You want to look at what other people, the experiences they've had with that company in the past. And a very important thing is to just read the contract, which can be scary sometimes because, we're not lawyers, and at the time we couldn't afford a lawyer. But as we read the contract, understand that when you read a contract and you see something that looks fishy and doesn't seem right, when you ask the vendor about it, they're going to find a way to say, oh, that doesn't really matter, or don't worry, that never happens. It's in the contract because it does happen. They will take advantage of you in that situation. Some of those things are like, for this one company, there was if you change the passcode within 6 months to, I think it was 6 months to a year, within a year after you finish the Kickstarter on your Kickstarter site, then they would automatically fine you. How much was it, Claire? It was like $40,000 to $60,000.
Wow.
And like if you take, there's a button that you had to put on their page, like on your Kickstarter, you had to put like a little green button that said funded by, or some of these buttons. And if you took that down, it was automatic like $5,000 charge. If you just did that by mistake, they would charge you $5,000. And you had to make a video within a certain amount of time validating their company. And on their site, I remember when I first went to their site, I watched their videos, and they looked like hostage videos to me before I knew anything about them, their company, and their practices. Mm-hmm. So there were some fishy things there in the contract. And so you read the contract, you look at other people that worked with them, talk to the people that worked with them, and understand that whatever's in the contract, you will be held to eventually. And they will use that against you. So if you don't feel comfortable with it, don't just accept if the vendor says that it's not going to be a problem, or don't worry about it. Understand that it's likely there will be. We didn't sign any of those contracts.
Yeah, I mean, if any time a vendor or someone wants you to sign a contract and you're not comfortable with something, and then they say that don't worry, it's never going to happen, then they should be willing to change it for you, right? They should be willing to change it in writing for you if it's not that big of an issue. If they're not, then like you're saying, it's kind of suspicious. So you went ahead anyway without working with these vendors and decided to do this by yourself. You mentioned that you spend a lot of time watching Kickstarter videos, and I've heard time and time again that one of the keys to a successful campaign is in the video itself. It's one of the, areas of a campaign page that people look at the most. And since you've done the work already by watching so many of these videos, can you share some of the themes that you saw in good Kickstarter videos?
Oh, yeah. No, I think the biggest theme is understanding that you wanted to add value to the world. So whatever your product is, then the purpose of it should be to help people in the world have a better life, whether it's making them more comfortable or helping them to understand something better, to have some kind of thing that helps them know who they are. And in our case, we had a product that would help people to remember the promise they made. Like there was meaning behind it. So we had a ring that symbolized something. And we also had a ring that was made out of material that was cutting edge, forged carbon fiber, which was very difficult for us to develop. That process is still expensive and difficult to make. That's one of the things that helps me to appreciate the value of what we're bringing to the world, is that regardless of our success being very public with the forged carbon fiber rings, no one else does it because it's very expensive and difficult to do. But so having something that adds value to the world, something that helps people attach meaning to who they are, attach meaning to relationships. And because I think we want to connect to other people, and we want to remember, and we want people to know what we stand for. And so make sure that that's something you care about. And then this thing was something that I was willing to sacrifice for. And I think that was apparent in the video, that we had done the work and we had found something and we believed in it. And even though we were new and small, and that we wanted to, and I feel like our enthusiasm for what we had made sort of helped to light a fire with people, to help them understand that spirit of creating something and following a dream. And I think that helped too in the video.
Yeah, you mentioned that you want to explain the amount of effort that was put into creating this. It sounds like you want to also sell a little bit about your dream, about you personally, about your kind of goals with this. And of course, you also mentioned that you want to show that you're bringing value to the world. Did you see any videos there, I guess, were kind of maybe what is the antithesis of this? Like, what is the opposite of a good Kickstarter video? What have you seen that just doesn't look like a high converting Kickstarter video? Not specific products, but what about the video itself made it not a good video?
Okay, well, you can think of like three different examples. So the first one, like for carbon fiber rings, if there were people that made rings, and their motive to make the ring is, they said that what did they say? They said that they saw that people were doing things out of carbon fiber, and so there was money in it, so they wanted to make money off of carbon fiber. And so they just took a tube of carbon fiber and chopped it up and sold it as rings. And so their motivation was just to make money. And so I think that, for one thing, it's very hard to make money when you start a business. And so money can't be the motivation, because if you're going to start a successful business, when it's going to survive, you're eventually going to be driven to make the decision to sacrifice for it. You're going to have to take a risk and give almost everything to keep it alive. I think most successful businesses, there's going to be a point to where you're going to make the choice. Do I deliver on my promises and have to take on risk, or do I just move on? And if it's just about money, of course, you're not going to do that. And so there's the first video type, which is being motivated by, we wanted to make more money, and we thought that you would like to buy this from us, so here. But that isn't sustainable. And I think that people can sense that it's not real. There's no meaning behind it. And then the next motivation might be because, I don't know, you want it to be cool. Like there was another video that I saw for rings that the person said, I saw that women had all these choices on different wedding rings, and I wanted to have a cool ring too. And I thought other people want to have cool rings. So let's go ahead and just make this cool ring, and then you can buy it. So that was another, level of it. So it wasn't just about money. It was about looking right, looking good. And so they were funded too. These were all funded products, all funded campaigns. And I feel like what I tried to do with our campaign and what I tried to do with our product, why we're still doing it now, because we have had to make a lot of sacrifice and take a risk to keep it alive, and is make something that adds value to the world, that it is a well-made product. When people look at it or they put it on, they feel it, that it helps them appreciate that there's work and craftsmanship, and that there's meaning behind it, that this ring symbolizes something more than just what it's made out of. That just like gold symbolizes purity and not being able to be corrupted, that carbon fiber symbolizes strength and unity between two things that are different, but become super strong together. And so I think that on that level, if you're genuine and you're willing to sacrifice and there's meaning to it, that people will hear it. They'll hear you cry out into that dark world of the internet and help support you, which is what happened with us and still happens today. We still fight and struggle to do things well and to bring value to people.
Amazing. So you finished raising the over $400,000 at the end or at the beginning of August 2015 last year. The Build-a-Business competition, was that when did you enter that contest? Like when was that? Was this after the Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah, it was entered after the Kickstarter campaign in August of last year when we opened up the shop. One of my past partners went ahead and set up the shop for us and entered the campaign, and then we were. They let us know that we had that we were winners in I believe it was January this year. Oh, July. Okay, yeah. My wife my wife does so much of this business that I don't know some things. Anyway, yeah. So July of this year, they let us know that we won.
Very cool. So during this period, how did you win the competition, right? Because the competition is it about who can essentially sell the most products? Like what were the metrics behind determining a winner for this competition?
So the basic metrics, they tried to normalize it and make it fair by, for every product you sold up to $100, that revenue counted towards, you winning. And it was the person that made the most money. But if you were on Shopify and you sold helicopters and you sold like 2 helicopters, then you'd probably make, $2 to $3 million. I don't know what a helicopter costs. But if you sell bows, then, you'd have to sell a lot more bows. So you don't really get to compete. So the way they normalized it was for every item you sold, $100 of that went towards the pot or the scale that was rising to see who won. And with us, we sold a lot of rings, and our rings cost the average cost of the rings is $150. So for every ring we sold, $100 of that went to the pot of us building up revenue. And within our category, which was I believe crafts and jewelry, Claire, is that right? Yeah, so there's about 5 categories actually, I think. And within our category of crafts and jewelry, we generated the most revenue in this period to win the Build-a-Business Award, which was phenomenal.
That's awesome. So in that time, or I guess from the end of Kickstarter campaign to today, can you give us an idea of how successful the business is today?
Sure. Yeah. So since the end of the Kickstarter, we've generated about $1.7 million and sold around 11,000 rings. So that's where we are.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what contributed to the, I guess, fast growth of your store? I mean, I'm talking to you now in September 2016. So the Kickstarter campaign only ended a little bit over a year ago. What drove the success of the store itself, like to get all that traffic and all of those sales to the store so quickly to win the competition?
Yeah, I think as this is the interesting thing about the world that we're in now with the internet and with funding and how things are available to people. One of the things that we notice is that, so as individuals, we're very, we have different tastes and very unpredictable, but as society, as just large numbers, it becomes kind of predictable. And so one thing that helps me to keep going forward is that we've seen traditionally that for every person that comes to our site, we end up getting $1 of revenue. And so we've worked very hard to try to drive revenue to our site. And the biggest driver to our site, of course, has been social media. That's where very much of marketing is going now because it's trackable. And, Facebook knows what kind of things people like. And so so Facebook post and Facebook ads have helped us to drive most of our traffic. And the way that that's worked for us is we started by supposing what kind of people will like our rings, and we would send out a shotgun blast to the world of people to see who would like to be interested in our rings. And so we sent those ads out, and then we would get back people coming to our site, and we'd pay attention to who would like our Facebook page and who would buy rings off of our site. And with that information, we could narrow down the type of people that want the kind of rings that we sell, that hear the voice that we have. And so we would narrow down the audiences. We would narrow down the audience's demographics to and the locations to those people that are more likely to buy the rings. And this whole time, a very important part of it is Facebook pixels. And so you make these ads and you find these demographics. And then while you're doing that, you have a Facebook pixel on the Shopify site and then on your Facebook page and then your Facebook ads accounts that will pay attention to who is coming. And in addition to finding people in those areas or those demographics, Facebook will amplify your efforts by, sending your ads to people and narrowing down on its own with their algorithms the kind of people that will like the things that you're selling. And so that's driven a whole lot of traffic to our site and helped us develop revenue.
So sounds like obviously a lot of hard work, but I like the way you talk about it because it's pretty straightforward. So you first, I'm going to break this down a little bit. So you first understood that each visitor to your site was worth $1. We'll start there. How did you look at, or how did you find this out? How did you figure out this data point?
Oh yeah, one of the great things about Shopify is the back end. So it makes it digestible to look at the numbers. You can see who's buying, how many buy, where they're buying from. And so the basic idea of it is you take the number of people that visit the site and compare it, like divide that by the dollars you get. And so you can see how many visitors per dollar. And if you divide our revenue pretty much every month for the last 14 months, you can do it by week, by month, by year. It almost always, maybe not by day, but like by every week, or every month, you can take the number of people that visit the site and divide it by the revenue that you made, and it ended up being $1. And so that's another great thing about the Shopify backend is you have this data, but you have to understand how to attach quality to it, how to understand what it means. And so one of the ways is like how much dollar per revenue that we get. And so that's the dollar per revenue thing. It's something that drives faith in me and helps me to understand, like when we have a bad day or we're not getting sales, I can know if people are coming to the site, then eventually that's going to turn into money. So that helps me to keep going whatever. You
said $1 per revenue. Do you mean $1 per visitor or?
$1 per revenue. Yeah, we have $1 per revenue per visitor for our site.
Okay, so you knew that this was the amount that you could spend up to get a customer. Then at that point, you knew it was just kind of a numbers game. How do you scale this up? So you went to Facebook, like you're saying, and you did it sounded like some just very broad targeting based on what you were assuming at the very beginning was your target audience, and then you ran these campaigns. Do you remember how much you were spending at first to test the waters?
Yeah, initially we were spending around $200 a day during the Kickstarter, and then we ended up moving up to about $600 a day, and eventually we got to the point where we were spending during Christmas time around $2,000 a day, and we would, and on Facebook, you can track the success of it, and almost any other kind of ad campaign about for every dollar you spend, how many interactions do you get? Like how many people actually will click on your ad or come to your site, or even how many people purchase from your campaign, which is the great thing about the internet with this pixel. And so we ended up, in the beginning, we were spending about a penny per someone actually coming to visit our site. And then when we got a little bit inefficient, it was about 40 cents for every visitor. And now we're back to about, 13 cents per visitor to our site, because it's not something that scales. Like the more money you put in, typically the less efficient it gets, but you accept that you will make money over time with it.
Mm-hmm. So obviously there's some automation to this, like you were saying, the conversion pixel from Facebook being placed on the conversion or the thank you confirmation page will help Facebook's algorithm target the right types of people that are likely to convert. But you also mentioned, it sounded like some kind of manual, analysis that you did to find out who was interested in the products. You looked at who ended up buying. You looked at who was interacting with your page, who's liking your page. Can you talk a little about this? Like how, I guess, manual was this process? Like what were you doing exactly to understand more about your market?
Oh, it's still extremely manual. So we have the campaigns that are running on their own, but generally we find, and this is always, I think this is maybe one of the things that helped our Kickstarter, is that we made sure that we interacted on a personal level with the people that wanted to be our clients. We found that as we would talk with them and answer messages in a real way, we don't have any robots or anything. That more people, understand the value and purchase our product. And so I still all the messages that come in from our Facebook page still show up in my personal email, and I still read all these messages. And every day I look through the comments of people that have written on our ads, and I respond to comments. I email and call people personally. Whenever I actually message a person, usually I give them my phone number, and I talk to, with lots and lots of people personally about what they're buying, and I'll email them personally from my personal account. So I interact with people that interact with us, and I think that's one of the reasons that we have loyal clients that are willing to help us and to share with their friends what we're making and to understand the value, because it's a real thing where we make the rings ourselves, we do the manufacturing ourselves. In America, it's been hard for me to do. It's a new thing that we're learning, and where we do the marketing and the shipping and and I look through the Facebook pages of people that like our page, and I share on Instagram, and I interact with them on Instagram so I can understand more about who they are and connect with them. So there's always numbers, and then there's heart, and so you have to have both in order to, I think, be successful.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes there's a little bit too much emphasis on the scalable side. How can we just look at kind of raw data, raw numbers, and just let the machines figure it out? But, obviously there's a lot of value in just looking at and talking to customers and kind of understanding more about them just by speaking to them. So do you actually, talk to these potential customers of yours, learn more about what they're like, and actually use that to change the Facebook ads? Like, what are you doing with this information that you kind of collect in your brain just from talking to these people?
Oh yeah, no, of course. So I remember we had someone that had abandoned their cart, and so I went ahead and started emailing with them, and I said, like, hey, I'm new at this, I'm trying to figure out what to do. You want to let me know what's going on? And they said, like, oh, well, it's just you didn't have this payment method. I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't know we didn't have that, so I'll put PayPal up, and then it'll be easier. So they were able to help me figure out what happened. And on Facebook, I would message with this fellow. I just remember him because he's from England, and there's a picture of him on a horse. He looks like a cowboy, but he's from England, so that always stuck with me. Anyway, so this guy helped me to understand some of the complications that come about mailing things to the UK, and so he helped me to understand how to better set up our shipping, so it made people receiving product from different countries have a better experience. And just in general, I can see the kind of things that people like, and usually it's the same things that I like for the people that like our page, or the people that share the Instagram or follows on Instagram, and so we make sure that the photos and our copy help to reflect the interest in the things that are important to the type of people that like the things that buy the things that we sell.
So even at this point in your business where, generating, like you said, $1.7 million in the last year, 11,000 rings, all these things going on in your life, you still find that your time is worthwhile to spend just talking and learning more one-on-one with customers that are, willing to interact with you?
Yes, absolutely, yes. And at some point, there's always the fear, like, what if we get overwhelmed? Like, and like on my personal number, what if someone, badgers me, or if I end up, if this person's, crazy, or if they're trying to steal something. And but I think if you take the risk and you share and open up and make yourself available to people, you'll find that almost everyone is a good person, and that people don't want to take advantage of you. People just want to just connect and to be treated fairly. I remember there was one woman that we were having problems processing her refund because of the way that she had paid for it. There was a credit card complication, and we were trying to get her money back. And so she had been going through one of our customer service reps, and so somehow I guess she got a hold of me on Facebook and started talking, and so I just said, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry, that's been a problem. I'll just give you the money through PayPal. That's easy." So I just gave her the money and refunded her the money, or offered to send her a check, but she had PayPal, so I just gave her the money back. And for some reason, I felt like maybe I should ask her, so what's going on? And it had turned out that that she had a ring that she had purchased, and it was going to be for her fiance, and he had passed away in a car accident. And so we, because, and it made me grateful that we had started talking to her. And so we continued to communicate with her. And if for some reason the numbers or this customer service had said, sorry, we can't do the refund, or we made her life harder, I would have felt terrible. Mm-hmm. But because I was available on Facebook and she was able to luckily contact me, we were able to try to help her in this time of mourning to maybe make, at least not make her life harder. And so I'm grateful that I was available to at least her to not have to feel that I'd hurt anyone or made anyone's life more difficult, especially in a bad time. And that wouldn't have happened if, me and my wife hadn't taken the risk of making ourselves available to people.
Yeah, I can definitely see why that does give you kind of the, like you're saying, I think the faith and the motivation to keep on doing this, hearing these kind of stories directly from your, from your customers. So, what are the plans for the next year? Like, what do you guys have going on? Because, the Kickstarter campaigns ended a year ago, won the Shopify Build-a-Business competition, $1.7 million in sales. Like, what's next for you guys?
So one of the great things about having a business is that it gives you a reason to go ahead and explore things that maybe you couldn't justify exploring before. Like I'd always wanted to work with Damascus steel, but it's very expensive and difficult to learn how to work with. But because we have a business and we make jewelry, I was able to buy Damascus steel and spend time and make connections and get educated on how to work with it. So we're able to make Damascus steel rings, and now I have a Damascus steel collection. And just recently, I've always loved space, and so I've always wanted to have a meteorite, but they're very expensive because there aren't a lot of meteorites floating around, well, not floating, but on the earth anymore. But because of the business, I can start to look into working with meteorite. And I just got several samples of meteorite, this week. And so we'll begin adding meteorite to our collection eventually, which I'll start to make watches. And so having a business, I think, now that we're able to make the rings and we're able to keep up with our orders and have a system involved to where we can consistently produce this product and help out our customers and understand more about marketing, I have the time to develop new things, which is what I've always wanted to do as a designer and a maker. I wanted to make a watch, and so having this business makes it to where I can begin to make that watch and work with materials that otherwise I couldn't justify working with.
Very cool. So it sounds like a lot of exciting products coming out from you guys. So, thanks so much, John and Claire. So carbon6rings.com, again, is a website. Anyone else you recommend the listeners check out if they want to follow along with what you guys are up to?
Oh, yeah. So we've got our Facebook page, and there's also carbon_6_rings on Instagram. And Claire, what was the YouTube page that you just started?
Yeah, we have a YouTube page. There's a link at the bottom of our website.
Yeah. So they can see us there. We're going to start making videos about the rings and the process and what we're learning as we go on, Yeah,
no, it definitely sounds exciting. So we'll link all that up in the show notes. Again, thanks so much, guys.
Thank you very much, Felix. It was really great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. To start your store today, visit shopify.com/masters to claim your extended 30-day free trial.